Hey everybody, so I'm back at least with my voice restored enough to make videos on camera again. I, if you're just joining us, I've been out of commission this week because I lost my voice due to pollen allergies. It actually got so bad earlier this week that I had to put a small PA system in my office at work so that when I needed to talk I could whisper into the microphone and be heard. But anyway, so I'm kind of back, at least well enough that I can be a loudmouth on YouTube again. So I want to talk about the current controversy that Kirsten Dunst has raised regarding her alleged financial woes and everything. My provocative title notwithstanding, I do want to be clear that I am only talking about her financial concerns. She's also raised, I know, issues about Sam Raimi's professionalism on the Spider-Man sets and that sort of some things like that too. That's not what I'm getting into here. Indeed, if he was being unprofessional, that's a whole separate matter, and that there could be legitimacy to that. But I'm talking about her financial claims. So. First of all, Kirsten Dunst is actually an actress I really like, and it's for that reason that I don't relish criticizing her in this manner, and certainly this is not to cut her down. Although I do feel compelled to challenge some of the things she says. But she's actually been in some movies that are favorites of mine, outstanding among them being Melancholia, because I love Lars von Trier's films, and she's phenomenal in that. And I also, she had a smaller supporting role in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and I really love that movie too. But, the thing, and obviously, I loved her in Spider-Man. I only saw the first two. Saw the first one in the theater, had a blast. Saw the second one on home video, never saw the third one. Comic book movies, for the most part, kind of wore out their welcome with me pretty quickly. But anyway, I enjoyed her, as we all did in the first one. The upside down kiss is a famous, iconic scene from the first movie, and all of that. She was great, and she was great. She was beautiful. She was sexy. She really brought pizzazz to the role and really made the performance pop. And she's a good actress. So I'm not putting her down personally at all, and I actually like a lot of her work. That said, she's been raising a lot of controversy lately because she says she's complaining that she did not get paid as much as Tobey Maguire for the Spider-Man films. That she ultimately only finished with, I believe, about 18 or 19 million dollars for all three films, while Tobey Maguire made a great deal more, made exponentially more than that. And she points, for example, to the fact that she only made $7 million for Spider-Man 2, for which Tobey Maguire was apparently paid close to $20 million. Now, there's a lot of arguments here that I could make. I could get into the fact that even though she played an important role in the Spider-Man movies, it was only a supporting role, and the movie's called Spider-Man, and anybody that's not Spider-Man is going to get paid dramatically less. I could talk about the fact that she made, for that movie alone, she made $6 million more than James Franco. I could talk about that. I could talk about the fact that the whole notion of a wage gap between men and women's earnings is actually a zombie lie that persists generation after generation, year after year, simply because it's a misunderstanding of studies that compare the median average of overall income between men and women. It's not some kind of look at the pay discrepancies, individual pay discrepancies that exist between all men and all women. I could talk about that. I could talk about how the fact that pay gap, the median average discrepancy between men and women, is derived largely from the fact that women make different decisions about their careers, and they often choose lower paying jobs. They choose jobs. They factor the desire to become mothers and homemakers and all of that into their career aspirations, and a lot of other things like that that causes the average to skew, and that when you control for one-to-one averages between actual workers, the wage gap all but disappears. I could talk about that. I could talk about how things like government intervention, things like the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, actually make it harder to report workplace financial discrimination. In fact, not only does it make it harder, but it actually encourages people to not report to people who have knowledge of unfair pay to not report it, so that they can rack it up and get a huge cash bonus payout when they retire. I could go into all kinds of things like that. There's all kinds of perspectives that I could say about this matter, but the fact of the matter is that nobody can hear any of those things, because for some reason when you try to say that, like, no, that this is a whole big misunderstanding, and trust me, it's not what you think it is. The wage gap is not what you think it is, and here's the reality of it. The only thing that people can hear is that you want the Handmaid's Tale. That's all they hear. Immediately, if you try to put any sanity on the matter, that's all they hear. They hear, you want the Handmaid's Tale. That's it. They think you want women to be barefoot, pregnant, and chained to the stove. And so that's so we're not going to say any of that. We're not going to make any of those arguments because they don't work. Instead, we're just going to speak to Miss Dunst directly with a little bit of perspective. Kirsten, the reason that people care about the income disparity between men and women is because it affects people who are at the level of just trying to get by. There are women out there who are trying to support themselves individually. There are women out there who are trying to support children on a single income. There are women out there who may have to support husbands and children on a single income for whatever reason. There are women out there who have to be the primary breadwinners for their families. And you see, in that kind of a situation, if one person is being paid less, arbitrarily paid less just because of their gender, then that is deeply unfair to them. It's not fair to arbitrarily pay someone less because of their gender for doing this at the same job, at the same experience level, for doing the same amount of work. That is unfair. And don't get me wrong, individual instances of that sort of thing do occur. But this idea of all women automatically getting paid 75% of the dollar, or 75 cents to the dollar that a man makes, and all of that, that is a misunderstanding. The institutional structure of that is not in place. Anyway, examples of that do occur. Prejudices and mistreatment do appear in the workplace, but the reason it's a big factor for the common woman, is because she's working at the level of trying to get by, of trying to survive. She is highly, highly dependent on everything at that job working effectively and working correctly and working fairly so that she can support herself and do well. Okay. Your situation is completely different. So completely different that it boggles the mind that you even think you can make this argument and come off sounding like anything other than an out-of-touch Hollywood brat. Miss Dunst, you are the sort of person who can say the sentence, "I got paid $7 million for acting in Spider-Man 2. You can say that about yourself, and it is true. That is a true statement. And that is why it is so galling. It is so galling, Miss Dunst, for you to put the word only in that sentence. Okay. You could have done let me put this in perspective for you, Miss Dunst. You could have done just Spider-Man 2 and gotten that $7 million paycheck for that, and retired for the rest of your life. You could have lived a comfortable middle-class existence for the rest of your life on that $7 million, just that $7 million. You could have, and that's even $7 million after 20 years of inflation would still support you at that level. You could have supported your entire family at that level for the rest of your life. So it is absolutely asinine and absurd for you to try to say that you were mistreated because you only got paid $7 million. You know, if Sam Raimi is listening, hey, I will gladly kiss Tobey Maguire for $7 million. Not a penny less, mind you. But the idea, you are so incredibly out of I know that you think that you are a part of a continuum of a liberal agenda, and that you're doing that you're trying to do right by your fellow man and indeed your fellow woman and all of that. I get that you think that you're doing that and maybe helping out in some way. But the idea that you can say, I only got paid $7 million is utterly absurd. Again, even though I said I wasn't going to get into it because no one would listen, but again, the movie's called Spider-Man. You played a supporting role. And let's be honest, Kirsten, if push came to shove, if it was down to the wire and they had to choose between paying you, putting you within your paycheck within spitting distance of Tobey Maguire, or finding somebody else, they're going to find somebody else. Because it was a supporting role. And that is why it is so laughably absurd. Instead, how about a little gratitude? How about a little gratitude for the fact that you get to have the life that millions and millions and millions of working stiffs all over the world dream of having? And that does not mean that your life is not fraught with difficulty, that being in show business and operating in show business at that level does not have its own problems, its own difficulties, that kind of thing. You know, I'm aware there's things, kind of like I saw an interview with Jennifer Lawrence where she talked about going to visit family for the holidays, and before she goes into the house, they have to put black trash bags over all the windows so the paparazzi can't see in. You know, I get that that's a hassle and aggravating, but quite frankly, speaking as one of the little guys, I'd love to have that kind of problem. You know, and so I understand there's problems and difficulties, but not only did you get paid $7 million for Spider-Man, you got paid millions and millions more for all three of those movies. By the time you were done, you had, I believe, $19 million from all three Spider-Man movies. You could have really retired on that, but you kept working. And now, if my information is correct, you now have a net worth of $25 million. You are not going to be setting up an OnlyFans out of desperation anytime soon. And I bring all of this up because we're at a point now, and I think it's because we're finally getting to a point where we don't have to rely on Hollywood for our entertainment anymore. it's becoming obvious that independent film studios can do as well or better than the Hollywood fare that's coming out and that sort of thing. And Hollywood is increasingly making the decision to throw flush profits down the toilet in exchange for pushing noxious social agendas that no one's really interested in. I think all of that is becoming readily obvious. But as all of that becomes clear and as Hollywood becomes more and more unnecessary in our entertainment lives, it really does become more and more apparent just how absurd of a bubble these people live in. Now, don't misunderstand me. I love the free market, I love capitalism, and I love that we live in a country where people can make millions and millions of dollars. I would just appreciate a little bit of, just a little bit of real humility where you don't have the gall to put the word only in any sentence where you're talking about the millions of dollars you've made. So that would, that's my 2 cents on that. We're getting to a point where it's just becoming obvious that Hollywood is not just its own little world, it's its own little planet. I mean, it's completely disconnected. So it is just bizarre to me, so utterly bizarre that someone could get paid $19 million for acting in a movie and for acting in a series of movies and continue to have an illustrious and celebrated career. And don't get me wrong, I understand that Tobey Maguire continues to command a much higher paycheck and that your paychecks have probably gotten smaller as you've entered middle age and that sort of thing. I understand that. But again, I just can't. When you are already when you're in the realm of making tens of millions of dollars, it's impossible for me to stop and think you're having this is some kind of unfair treatment. Don't get me wrong. There are certainly things where, if you were in a situation like the music industry, where the music industry is going belly up because artists can't make money at it anymore and the big paydays are no longer there, then you would have I would understand, then you'd have something to complain about. But you've made $25 million and you continue to make more. And it is just utterly preposterous to me that you could have the gall to complain about that. So anyway, that's where I stand, and see what everybody else thinks.